Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very
Howdy.
much for joining us. This is Friday with Fran, and I am one host, Shelly, and this is Fran. And if you've watched before, you know that Fran has a very different background today than what she normally does. So, Fran, where are you? What's happening?
I'm in Florida on a mission trip.
Nice. And it looks warm there.
Um, it's a little cooler than it's been, but from what I hear from you, it's much warmer than you.
Yeah, we've had a few little snowflakes flying in the air today, and I don't think it was enough anywhere to stick, but yeah, there were
Oh my.
a few flurries. So it's barely above free. Well, it's a little. No, it's really not that much above freezing. I just looked at the temperature posted on my computer monitor, and it's not that much more above freezing. So
Well,
welcome to
it's
the
warm enough
Midwest.
here. It is
Yeah. So
definitely
tell us.
warm enough here.
So talk about this missions trip that you're on.
It's a auto repair ministry. They repair missionaries' cars, retired missionaries' cars here, and they do it all at no cost to them. And so I've been helping do some car check-ins, check fluid levels, lights, and everything like that. And then I'm the team cook.
That's
So
so
I
cool.
get to
Hey,
cook.
Alex.
Hey, Alex. And I get to cook for everyone.
Nice. That is such a cool ministry. I the first time you told me about this a couple of years ago, I didn't know it existed, but I'm sure it is such a blessing to so many people because it's probably not something that a lot of missionaries have opportunity to do, take care of their vehicles. And then, it's a nice way to give back to them for
Yes.
the missions that they've been on.
Yes, it's you definitely see the gratitude in their faces, but it's such a neat way just to serve.
Yeah, that's awesome. Such a cool thing. So, as normal, we didn't give a lot of thought to, I mean, we did, but not a lot of time before coming on as to what the topic was going to be. But you said spring break. And so I said spring break, woohoo! Or maybe not. So,
Yeah.
what were you thinking when you came up with that topic for us today?
Um there was a lot of spring break traffic on the way here.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was part of my thought process. And what I have some friends that are having spring break. And so, what does that mean when you have kids of an age that they're in school? And then I thought, does spring break really make a difference as an adult? So, there you go.
All right. Yeah. So, when I saw the title or the topic, I thought, yeah, my mind went to students who need that structure, who need that routine. And then it went to families that, like you said, as an adult, how does spring break affect us? And I think
Hmm.
most parents, they don't get a spring break off of work unless they plan to take it off of work.
Right.
And so then, yeah, they have to figure out, what they're going to do with the kids. And so, is that something that you did when the kids were younger and going through school? Did you ever get to go
Well,
on a spring break with them?
yeah, I did. And then our school district arbitrarily changed having a full spring break, and now it's just a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really couldn't go anywhere in that amount of time without taking the kids out of school. And with my mom being a former educator, you didn't take kids out of school.
Right,
They were, if school was on, they were there.
right. Yeah. So, what else do you think is happening with the topic of spring break? Like, tell me what
Well,
it means to you
I
as an
was
adult now.
as an adult. Um, it's a time to reboot. So how can you take a spring break without taking a spring break? How
Oh,
can you, like, not even a staycation, but what do you do to reboot?
that's an
That's my
excellent question.
question. So what's
Are
the
you
answer?
asking me, or are you asking our audience, or is it just
I'm
what you were
asking.
thinking?
It was what I was thinking. I'm asking you. I'm asking anyone that's listening. What would you do to reboot? What do you need to do to refill your toolbox so that you are able to continue forward following spring break?
Interestingly enough, the other day just was thinking about this, not exactly in this context, but I was sitting in my living room and we have a big picture window. It's like, I don't know, this many windows wide.
Mm-hmm.
And then the door was open to the outside. So there was, some space between what I could see out the window and what I could see out the door. And I was just sitting there. I wasn't on my phone. The television wasn't on. I wasn't talking with anyone. I was just sitting there watching nature,
Uh-huh.
watching the birds that were building their nest on my porch, watching them, fly from the porch past my window somewhere, and they would come back. And we have bushes out in front of the big window, and so sometimes they would land on the bushes, and I could see them, and then they would disappear into the bush, and then I was watching the trees, kind of sway back and forth a little bit, and I thought I was doing that for several minutes, and then I thought, I am so relaxed
Ah,
at this moment. And it wasn't an intentional stop and sit and relax. It just happened.
okay.
So that I thought was really interesting because I like to sit and just watch nature. Um, my mom and I went past there's a river, a big river, fairly big river where she lives, and there were pelicans out on that
Really?
river. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so we went out and just watched the pelicans. And I think I probably could have stayed for much longer than what we did. We really only stayed for, I don't know, maybe this many minutes.
Mm-hmm.
She's in Florida, Mom. I don't know if you were on when she said that, but um, so I was thinking that I'm like, I could just sit here and watch them. So for me, that's always been kind of my thing. I'm not like a huge hiker or camper like yourself, but I do like to just be in nature.
And I think for a lot of people, nature is the key. And finding nature doesn't mean you have to pack a tent and go out into it. Finding it even just by going on a walk or a walk around your house outside, just stepping outside briefly sometimes can be helpful. Um, as you were talking about the pelicans, there's a mated pair of cranes here that are really tall,
Oh yeah.
and I kind of was stalking them. I was following them around the other day because they were just so cool. They had these really red heads. But for me, even here, going taking my power chair out and taking a brief ride around and trying to see how many geckos I can find or something was is just a neat way to reboot and to refresh as I'm serving.
Yeah. So I don't know if you or the audience will be able to see this very clearly, but I took several pictures of the pelicans and then I kind of went in and edited a couple of them. So I'm going to try to share one.
Oh wow. Can see it.
Yeah. So I was just like so mesmerized, and then
And that was just on the riverbank?
well, they were, yeah. Where's the I thought I had Oh no, I can't find it. I thought I had done that with another picture, but where I had, because and these are just on my camera phone. I just went in and well, like this one's not as good. I didn't do anything to this one,
Mm-hmm.
but
That one's
you
kind
can,
of hard to see.
yeah. I don't know if I try to do that, if it makes it any better. It's just not as clear.
Yeah,
But
I can see them.
so yeah, I just went in and and just kind of, oh, it was this one. Okay, this is a little bit.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, they were just sitting right
Since
at
we're
the
showing
base.
pictures.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
That was this morning.
Oh, how nice. Yeah, so those pelicans were at the base of the dam, like where the
Okay.
dam starts to flow into the river.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so it was so hilarious because they would tuts up, as I call it, because I think that comes from the movie Aristocats, where they would be sitting there and all of a sudden they'd go floop and they'd be down getting all the fish.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
But you know what I noticed as you're sharing this, as you're sharing the pictures and as you're talking about it, your shoulders raised up, you got this light look about your face, and you got a grin.
Mm-hmm.
So even whatever else might be going on in your life, as you even remember this time of getting into nature, it changed your countenance.
Yes, that's true.
And so I think having those memories or creating, that's one of my big things, is creating memories.
Mm-hmm.
So that such a time is, and by creating those memories, you're filling your toolbox for such a time as when you need them.
Yeah, that's true.
I know we keep coming back to it, but I just really feel having tools allows us to better handle life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely.
So I don't know. That's just my uneducated thought process there for you.
Well, I thought it was a good one. It was so good you made me speechless.
So we've talked of nature.
Mm-hmm.
What other ways can, especially when you have children, students, um, well, children that need structure, and all of a sudden they're plugging along in school, and then spring break hits, and there is no structure. What can you do?
Yeah, and I mean that happens whether it's spring break or Christmas break or even like a lot of
A
schools in
long
our
weekend.
area. Right. That's that's what I was thinking with Easter coming up. A lot of schools will take the day before the weekend and the day after the weekend and not have school on those days. So, yeah, what do you do for those kids who need that structure and they don't have it on those 2 days?
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been thinking quite a lot about that recently, and I'm wondering if as adults we put too much stress on that structure. I know that kids need that, so I don't want that to come across that I'm not saying that. But
We overstructure.
no, not even that. Like that we worry so much that, oh no, now there's a snow day,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's going to throw their schedule off. Like I almost wonder sometimes if kids feel our stress and relate and respond to that more than that it's different on a particular day.
I don't know. I know that my kiddos, I was never really good about having structure. It was just kind of random freeness.
Uh-huh.
So, but I know they would have both of them probably would have benefited from a little more structure. So I'm not sure about that I stressed about it and made them stress, because I just kept doing my thing and never really thought about it. But later, looking back, it's like, oh man, they probably could have benefited from having an idea of what was going to happen in the day. And so maybe there's a happy medium.
Yeah, and I mean I don't know because it's not something that I have experienced in my personal life. I know I had students that very much benefited from that consistency, that structure. But you had made a comment a long time ago about, that it is difficult when things change and schedules change, and the weather is always changing. So how do we adjust our consistent regular schedules for the weather?
You don't. I think about how many adults struggle with the weather,
Mm-hmm.
how they have a bad day when it's a rainy day,
Yep.
let alone children.
Yeah.
So I think as a society, we kind of fail in that area. Just a thought.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to analyze and think about, is this the cause that made this effect?
Okay.
Or, what effect does that little thing have? And, just hypothesize a lot and try to, because I'm always trying to figure out the behaviors. I'm always trying to figure out the why. I'm always,
Because behaviors are communication. So you're trying to figure out why someone's communicating in that fashion, correct?
Yeah. And like I said, just the whole thing of, yeah, I know that there are kids who they thrive on that structure. And I guess I've been thinking about this because there's been so much not chaos, but I guess in a way it's chaos because of all the pandemic,
Oh, right.
And I think a lot of kids did a lot better than the adults thought they were going to, because it wasn't going to be structured the same consistently. And so I think a lot of parents and teachers too, because I have this fear too, that kids were just going to be so out of whack and so, just not able to learn. And that happened to kids who don't need that structure and that consistency. So that's where I'm getting this thought from, is I'm not so certain that it's that structure and consistency that was the problem, as much as learning through a computer is just not the best way to learn for a huge population of students.
Right. So what do you guys think that are watching with us? What do you think about all that? About structure and overstructure or lack of structure? How do we get on structure? Oh, yes, spring break.
Because we were talking about spring break and whether or not that structure, how how kids adapt, or what we do as parents or as caregivers. And I think one of the things is we talk and we prepare. I mean, social stories to me were a big help when she can't see this, so I'm not showing her for a second, but I bet she can tell, Alex, what you said without me even sharing it, because I chuckled.
Balance.
Yes. Yeah. And
that's a cheat. You can't just use that word. You got to come up with more.
Uh-oh, now it's serious. We got to throw down. But, social stories when I taught were a great tool. And for anyone who's watching who doesn't know what a social story is, it's just a way that you teach a skill, or you teach, I mean, I guess even in teaching how to handle something, it's teaching a skill of how to handle something. And so, like I remember I had what happens if there's a substitute as a social story, because I had kids that made them nervous. And so we would talk about it, and we would, especially if I knew I was going to be out for a workshop or something. But then that carried over to those days when I didn't have advance notice that I wasn't going to be there. And then somebody could say, remember how we behave when we have a substitute, and that it just means this, and all the little steps in the social story. But I know that all the parents aren't doing social stories leading up to a break. So what else can we do?
Be flexible. I think that's a key.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more rigid we are, the harder it is to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And as adults, it's important that we be as flexible as possible within probably certain parameters, but then we are, by example, our children can follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm horrible at change, like sudden change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do well with it. And I know that my daughter follows my example. And so I'm trying harder to work on that myself so that I can help her. And partially it is giving a social story. This might happen, I'm not sure. So we have to be flexible, is what I say to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, right, mom. Because she knows how much I love going with a plan and then the whole plan changing.
Right.
Well, like
So what are you, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Even here, the menu that has been printed and set for a while had to change. And it
Oh,
didn't just change a meal. We changed this many meals, rotated around because something they were going to cook a meal for us,
uh-huh.
and so we had to adjust this many other meals to um, work with, so we didn't have the same meat over. Da, da, da. Anyway,
Right. Yeah. To keep
and
that variety in there.
it really threw me for a loop, and I was like, but I have this sign, and I have and I had to stop, and I actually walked away from the menu for a while, and I took a ride in my power chair and just allowed myself to not even think about it. And when I came back, I could more clearly then adjust to that change and see, okay, well, this isn't that bad. This can move here, this can move here, and it's okay. Change is okay. But
Mm-hmm.
if I had not taken the time to walk away, it had the potential to really throw me. And then I probably would not have had the best attitude and probably would have been snappy with people. So it was important for me to realize, and I think kids may not be able to realize that, so it's important for us then to help them reboot.
Yeah.
Don't keep um, don't keep pushing them to try to get it right then. Allow them that break to walk away because we can't do it. So why do we expect them to?
Right. And I'm glad that was what I started to say. Sorry, I don't know why my nose is so itchy, but um, that's what I was starting to ask you was, what are you doing to help you in those moments? Like, and then you talked about that you step away from the situation for a little bit, but what do you do? And Alex has a couple things, so don't let me forget to share them. But what do you do when you can't step away? Do you have other strategies that you have been working on within yourself to help you in those moments?
I breathe. I just
Well,
take a
that's
moment,
important always.
but I take a moment to be intentional about my breathing. I stop and I just take a couple of not deep breaths. I found that doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
You know, people are always like, take a deep breath. No, that causes me to like freak out. No, I just take a couple of breaths and don't speak and don't think, just breathe. And then I attempt to comprehend or adjust or deal with whatever just through a curveball. Go ahead and share Alex's.
So some kids are so structured during the school year, they need spring break to relax and re-energize.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, I think that's very good. And sometimes that is that's the I think sometimes we get structure and consistency we use them interchangeably, but they're not interchangeable necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then her second comment was downtime is just as important.
And I don't. Do you struggle with that, Shelley? Having downtime? Do you feel like you have to constantly be doing?
I do, and I'm getting better at it, but yeah. And that's funny that you asked me that, because a little, I don't know, three or four like prayer days to C or D prayer days to prayer days ago, I was trying to relax on that day, and I couldn't do it. And I even joked to Kevin, I'm like, I am the worst at doing this anymore. Like, I feel like I have to do stuff for work or for home. Like, I can't just sit and play my games on my phone or on the computer or watch television or do nothing, which to me, those things are doing nothing. I mean, I know I'm actively engaged in something, but I'm not productive in those moments.
Right.
And so, and he was like, but you're doing it. You're letting yourself have downtime. You're not constantly doing for work or doing stuff at the house or, and so I am getting better, but it's kind of a weird feeling when I'm not, even if I'm not physically doing something, I'm still in this mode like when I was a teacher of, even if I'm not physically doing something in a moment, my brain is thinking, what can I be doing for this student, or what can I be doing? Now it's for my business. What can I be preparing for the business, or how can I do this, or what should I, whatever. And so to just sit and those thoughts not be constantly penetrating, it's like, it's quiet in my head. What's going on?
I hear you. Like, even driving down here, it was a really long drive from north to here.
Yeah.
And I purposed that every couple of times around the clock, I would stop to get out and walk a bit, get gas, something. And it was very hard for me even to do that because I was on go, go, go mode. And I just wanted to keep driving because why should I stop? There's no reason to stop. Well, there's a lot of reasons to stop. Blood clots and my health and my alertness, but I just wanted to keep going. And it was this push me, pull you, Dr. Doolittle thing. As I was driving, it would creep around. I'm like, oh, I gotta stop. Oh, no, I don't want to stop. I'm just gonna keep going a little bit more. Oh, there's a place I could be stopping. There's a rest stop coming. Nope, no. And I had to be very intentional. And I think that's the key as we go with the spring break thing, being intentional about allowing some unstructured time, allowing them to find things to do on their own because sometimes, I mean, well, kids are smart and they will naturally gravitate to what they need if given the opportunity. A lot of times, I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of times,
right,
they will gravitate towards what they need mentally and physically if we give them that opportunity. Is it too windy? I'm sorry.
No,
I hear the wind blowing.
It's not too windy. I'm just watching the trees sway behind you and getting a little sleepy. Like, oh, it's so relaxing. Oh, Fran's talking. I need to listen. No, I don't hear the wind at all. I don't know if anyone else hears it. But
it's just getting really strong in the trees, and I was afraid that it was going to be too strong.
No, I'm not hearing it. So I have to tell you a funny story because you were talking about traveling, and I have made the trip that you made, and I've never made it by myself. A few years ago, Mom and Violet and I went a little farther than where you are now. And I was very much like, we are getting up, at dawn or before, and we are going to get there today in the same, and like, I didn't, and Mom, I promise if I take you there again, I will stop. We will go more slowly and we will stop more often because she was like, I don't know how far into it. She's like, we're going to stop at a hotel. I'm like, no, we're only like this many times around the clock to our final destination. We're getting there.
Oh, poor mom.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, okay. But yeah, I've always been that way. It's sort of like a mini competition that I have with myself and the GPS. If it says that it's going to take me X number of hours, I'm like, no, I can beat that.
Yep. When I used to know numbers, that would be something that I would do. Now I just use GPS to make sure I get in the right direction.
Yeah. And that actually might be a blessing. Because it maybe it does free you up a little bit to not be so like for myself, to not worry so much about time. You knew when you had to be there. So you gave yourself the extra space to travel slowly because you were intentionally planning to make the stops that were necessary.
Whether I wanted to or not, yes.
Yeah.
Because
right.
I was like, oh, I want to get there. But you're right. It was a different trip. This was a different type of travel for me. And if I look at it now, it was much more pleasant than when I used to race the GPS. It didn't have that intensity that previous trips have had. So.
And I sometimes think for me, it has a little bit to do with my anxiety. And anxiety doesn't have to be in a negative way. You can be anxious for something happy. And I think for me, that's what it is when I'm going on a long trip is, yes, I am maybe a little anxious about getting someplace safely. And so if I get there, then that's like off my plate. I don't have to, because I'm safe. I'm there. But I think the other part of it is I just want to be there and have as much time whatever my destination is, as I could possibly have. And so I don't want to take 8 hours and sleep somewhere else and then get up and then finish driving, So that's kind of my philosophy. It's not my philosophy. It's how I live. But I think it's that anxiety of just, I don't know. I think it's what it is. And I wonder if we lost Mom because she's not commenting about that trip or anything. So I wonder if she's not able to.
I wonder where she is. I was going to say the same thing.
So, yeah.
So we've talked about nature.
Yep.
We've talked about breathing.
Yep.
We've talked about
there she is.
We've talked about parameters and being flexible. So what other things come to mind with spring break? Well, let's address this.
See, okay, so this is where my competition side of me for driving. With my dad, it was because someone told him he could not make it back from Canada in 12 hours. We made it with time to spare. And I didn't go on that trip with them. And we didn't take a lot of trips when I was growing up, but we took some. And I don't really remember the getting from home to wherever we were going as like if it was a thing for him to like, the map says it's, this, because of course when I was growing up there was no GPS to tell you it's going to take you X number of hours to get somewhere. So it was, you kind of had to figure it up by miles and how many miles per hour and all those kinds of things. And I don't remember him necessarily ever talking about that. There was one trip though that I do remember, and this really has nothing to do with spring break, but I'm going to tell you the story anyway.
Okay.
Because we were going to pick up my brother from basic training. We were going to watch him graduate, and we had to drive to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And it is an extremely boring, straight, no hills, no curves, no scenery drive from where we live to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And my dad was speeding, which I also do. And my mom commented something about the fact that, how much he was speeding, how much over the limit he was going. And I said, but if he continues to do that, we'll knock so many hours off of the total expected time of travel, because we'll shrink how many, and that's the only time I ever really remember it ever being even discussed. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I just don't ever remember it. So that was probably the longest trip. And it wasn't probably any longer to go there than it is to where you're at now, but it just seemed like it was so long. Of course, I was like 15 or 16 years old too, so that may have had something to do with it.
Change of scenery.
Yeah.
Like going through Tennessee, is windy and hilly and mountainy, so that's different than going straight through all our rural America.
Yeah, definitely. That probably, because you went through mountains and this was just the plains, and they are plain for a reason.
Because that's where we get all our good crops.
It's true. It's very true. So true. So what else? We talked about nature. We talked about breathing. We talked about being intentional. What was the other thing we talked about? Flexibility. So maybe doing social stories, preparation. So is there other stuff? Like, can you think of, did you ever have any really fabulous times off and or really disastrous times off?
Well, when we used to always go to Galveston, and we planned parts of it, and we were flexible and had open time with other parts of it. And I really enjoyed that. We didn't over cram it. And so it gave us all time to just chill and relax. If we want to go to the beach, we could. If we wanted to just hang in the timeshare, we could. And then we also had specific times we were doing certain things. And so they knew that. Everyone knew, okay, on this day we're doing this. So don't plan anything else and be prepared for it. So I think the key was the success of these trips was having some structure and having some unstructured time. And then trips that were not so good, or breaks. I remember a break that was horrendous, and my children did not handle it well. I had planned some things and it didn't go well. I think I had overplanned actually, and they didn't handle it well. So therefore I also did not handle it well. And there was lots of screaming and little relaxation or fun, because we were going to do it. Come hell or high water, we were going to get this stuff done, and we were going to do what was planned. And this is what we're meant to do. And so there was not the flexibility that was necessary. So I think that's the highs and lows and me being real for you. There you go.
Okay. Well, Mom commented again. We also had that conversation on our way back from Florida, only that time he got a ticket. Is that the time before Kevin and I went to England? Because I remember Dad getting a ticket when we came back from that trip. Because that was so weird to know that my dad was driving and then we get pulled over by the police officer, even though I was an adult. If it's the same, yeah, she says, yes, it was. So even though I was an adult, it was still really scary to have my dad have to talk to this police officer and, be pulled over. And, cause I had never been pulled over by that point. I was, like I said, I was an adult, I was married, but, so I had never had that experience. And it was just like, okay, we were in Alabama, I think. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, what if they haul him off to jail? So that was the non-structured time of our trip that didn't go so well. I think it depends on the age of the children, whether they need structure during spring break or not. Yeah. So I'm glad you used the word structure, Alex, because I wanted to go back to talking about the difference between structure and consistency and why they're not interchangeable. So for me and my understanding, when I think of structure, there's a plan. Like you just talked about, like you had some days where this, and this are going to get done this day. And in schools, consistency is, you go to school and you get there at this time, and then you have reading, and then you have math follows reading, and then you have recess after math, and then you have whatever, and then you go to lunch, and so that's that consistency. And then the structure is, did I just do it again? Did I just interchange the two words myself? Structure is, this is the day. This is what we're going to do today. Consistency is, this is what we're doing today. This is what we're doing tomorrow. This is what we're doing Wednesday. This is what we're doing Thursday, and so forth. And I think as long as there is some structure in a day, and I think if a child, at least this has been the majority of my experiences, and again, not raising a child that has this need for that structure, and that consistency, as long as kids knew what was coming, even if it was a change in their consistency, if it was structured, like, okay, today, you don't have to get up so early. And when you get up, you don't have to get dressed and have breakfast and take your shower and brush your teeth. You can do that in any order, or, so still having like parameters, maybe is even a good word to use instead of structure, of like, this is what's acceptable for this time of the day, and this is what's acceptable for this time of the day. I think that would help a lot of those kids that have that need for structure. But it's consistency, I don't feel, is as necessary as structure. So the consistency becomes like, oh, you have the Friday and the Monday off. So as long as there's structure in those days, even though they're at home, even if you have a snow day that you weren't anticipating, but there's still some structure, there's still some guidelines. I think that in my experience, that's been the case, that kids that need that, as long as they have sort of like an idea of what's coming next, they do better. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm having a hard time grasping where you're going with the consistency and the structure.
Okay.
So I'm getting miscombobulated. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And it is, Alex and Mom, were you able to follow that? Was that confusing? And I mean, at the beginning, like I said, I switched the words around anyway. Because it is, I get a lot more done if I have a plan for the day. So to me, that's the structure. That's having structure. Like you knew on the days that you were going to drive to Florida, the structure was, I'm going to stop every B hours or B times around the clock. That was the structure. The consistency then would be like, if you, thank goodness you're not going to do this, but if you were to make that long trip every day, then that would be the same thing every day. Or even like when you come home, you've got the consistency, the structure, and then it kind of is consistent with what you had done going to Florida, that you're going to stop every few hours. So they can be, I guess, interchangeable. Yeah. Structure to me also means planned activities. Yeah. So that's kind of where my thinking is. Does that clarify it at all, or is it still clear as mud?
I think so. I get structure. I think the consistency is getting muddy.
Yeah.
So
And I'm trying to figure out to say it in the way that it doesn't include time, because I'm wondering if that's
so I'm probably missing that. So that's fine.
Okay.
It's okay. Sequence.
I'm still trying to figure out how to speak and to make it so that you understand what I'm saying all the time. I'm getting there.
I appreciate that. It's okay. And it's okay for me not to get it, because I don't have to get everything.
Well, okay. But
really, I'm okay. Okay, I am okay if I don't grasp everything. It doesn't mean I don't feel a failure. I don't feel inadequate. I understand that there's just some things I can't grasp, and I'm okay with that.
Well, and the teacher, yeah, no, I get it. And I get what you're saying. And I appreciate that. The teacher in me, though, wants to figure out the way for you to understand what's happening.
And the student in me is saying, okay, I got it.
Right.
We're okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
So Alex says, consistency is things that need to be done at any time. Not sure that that's the same definition that I have of it, but I think I understand.
At the same time, maybe?
Yeah. Well, like consistency is every church day. That's the day you go to church. Every prayer day, that's the day, because that's a lot of ways that you speak now, is how you tell time. Well, it's from church day to church day, or prayer day to prayer day, or Friday with Fran to Friday with Fran, or so those are the things that are consistent in your life.
Okay.
Are you just saying okay because I'm still trying to get you to learn it?
Perhaps there is that possibility. Onward and upward. Okay, so spring break. We have now talked about nature and social stories and structure versus consistency and flexibility. So what else? And breathing. So what else factors into spring break?
The weather.
Weather.
Yeah, I mean, and your location. A lot of people go somewhere for spring break. And then,
do you think a lot of people go somewhere, or do you think some people?
I think individuals of a certain age travel more for spring break. I don't necessarily think that that's a good question. I don't think that families necessarily travel for spring break as frequently as don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was a time when we took Violet out of school, and only like a day, and then I also had to be out of school because I was teaching at the time. And we went to California for spring break.
Really?
Yeah. And and even that, it wasn't even a whole Friday with Fran to Friday with Fran. It was pretty close. So, but yeah. And that was at an Easter time many years ago, actually. And that's the only time I've ever been in California. And that was one of our first trips where, yes, we had structure, but we did what you kind of did. It's like, okay, on this day we're going to visit this, and we're going to go here, and we're going to do that. But I tried not to over plan. Mm-hmm. So if we were doing things in the afternoon, I would try not to plan many things in the morning, or vice versa. Or, if we were traveling a lot on one of the days, then I'd try to leave kind of downtime.
So that makes me think, do we as adults give our children the opportunity to help in the planning and the structuring, or do we just tell them what it's going to be and expect them to be okay with it? And the rest of the question is, do we read our children? And if they're struggling, are we able to adjust our plans, or do we just continue forward because that's the way it's going to be?
That's excellent. Both of those are excellent questions. Some things should be consistent in a given day, whereas structured things may change. So yeah, I think I agree with that, Alex, because you are going to eat 2 or 3 times every day. So that's consistent. Well, you might have more times, but as long as you do the same amount every day, then it's consistent. Okay, let's say you're going to eat every day. That's consistent. You're going to eat every day. And then she just said for her anyways, that's her definition. So, yeah, I mean, maybe they are interchangeable more so than I think they are, but, but yeah, so though I think those are excellent questions. And I don't think we can answer that obviously we could answer it for ourselves and our own children, but for society in general. But I think that's an excellent question for everyone to consider when they are planning, and when those times come when their children have those moments of, this is not working for me. And I'm sure that I've experienced both, where I've read the room and pushed forward anyway when it was not a great decision. And then I've read the room and said, this isn't working. We need to do something else.
You mean you're human?
No.
Yeah, baby.
No.
I hate to let you in on it. You are human.
Man.
Come back to the rest of us humans.
No thinking during spring break. Relax. Okay, well, if spring break is only one time around the clock, I'm good with that.
But can you even do it for around the clock?
There was a time in my life when I could. There was a time in my life where there was absolutely no way that I could. And then I'm working to find the balance between those two things.
Yeah, work that word in there.
Oh, I missed this. I'm sorry, Alex. So just thinking during spring break, and then Mom said no thinking during spring break. Relax. Okay. Got it. I'm on board with the both of you now. So I think, I don't know.
I think we've covered spring break.
I think we have. From start to finish, top to bottom, back and front.
And I think the important thing in what we've covered is there is no right answer or wrong answer. There's just a variety of ways to handle spring break.
Mm-hmm.
And even whatever you start off spring break with, be flexible enough to shift.
Or
Call an audible at the line.
or be prepared to deal with the consequences if you don't shift.
Yeah. They're not always pretty.
No, it's very true. So,
Well,
like,
I'm going to go look for an alligator.
what? Why?
Because I want to find the alligator.
Okay, but remember what you told me before you left about alligators and power chairs?
I think I'll be faster.
Do you? You think
Yeah.
you'll be faster? Let's not
Yeah, I
really
think
test out that theory.
it goes 8 miles an hour. That's really fast. So
Yeah, but can't they travel faster than that?
I don't know. I haven't researched it. And even if I researched it, I wouldn't know that because it would be a number. So it really doesn't matter, does it?
Okay, I'm going to find out right now. I'm going to type it into Google right now. How
No, you're
fast
not.
does an alligator run? Look, it like popped up. Yep. Sorry, dear. Alligators can go faster than your 8-mile-an-hour power chair.
Oh, man. But I really want to find the resident alligators.
Well, can't you do it from your lanai?
Well, no, because it's all screened in and I can't get it. I won't
Well,
find them that way.
can't you get in your car and drive around and look for them that way?
No,
Because I know your car
really.
can go faster.
My car can go faster, I'm sure, but I want to see.
Thank you, Alex. It's been good to talk to you today.
Thank you for your input. So, Mom, don't you think I should go look for the alligators?
And Mom, by the way, she was told not to buy, not me, but the people where she is. So let me just throw that out there. Not that I'm telling you.
Oh, man. So, anyway, back to spring break.
No, we're done with spring break. We said we've covered it all. You're in trouble now, Missy.
Okay. But, since I will be traveling, we will
yes.
not have Friday with Fran.
Oh, shoot. I hope Alex heard that. So, yeah.
So I wanted to say happy Easter to everybody and happy spring break. And I hope that everyone is well and remember that you're not alone.
Yep. And I think your shirt is very apropos for the ending of our show with you talking about Easter because, the resurrection is what we are celebrating when we celebrate Easter. And Jesus, for you and I, is a very important part of our life. And so, yes, I'm glad that you remembered, and your timing is perfect because it is time to wrap up. So,
okay.
And Mom is not giving you permission. She hasn't commented. I'm not holding it off and not showing you. She really hasn't commented. So,
sure. All right.
But yes,
next
Friday,
been fun.
Friday we will not be on. So yes, everyone have a blessed Easter, blessed Resurrection Sunday, and have a great
Thank you,
week.
Mom. Happy Easter back to you.
Next week, and then we will see you in 2 weeks, and we will talk about something.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Be safe, Fran, on your way, your travels.